Hey everybody, welcome back to the Consumer Warrior Podcast. The podcast is dedicated to helping you with your big debt problems. If you're just dabbling in debt, this isn't the podcast for you. We deal with the big debt problems like repossession, debt collection lawsuits, foreclosure, bankruptcy, and all the other horrible financial problems that are out there. We're here to help you to help yourself. Welcome back to the show. I'm the host of the show, John Skiba. I'm a consumer protection attorney in the state of Arizona, and I'm also a Ramsey Solutions master financial coach where I help people put together plans on how to get out of debt, stay out of debt, and build wealth in moving forward. And on today's episode of the podcast, I want to talk about the number one thing that I see as someone who has worked as a bankruptcy attorney for nearly 15 years now, someone who's literally met with tens of thousands of people over that 15-year period. I want to talk about the number one thing that I see as far as what leads people to filing for bankruptcy. You know, as a financial coach and a bankruptcy attorney, I kind of walk this kind of fine line of, you know, my goal is to help people in the financial coaching realm to avoid bankruptcy altogether. But at the same time, I am a bankruptcy attorney, so I'm helping people to go through that process. And as when I put on my financial coach hat, I often will think, what is it that leads people to bankruptcy? When is it that bankruptcy is appropriate? And when is, maybe something like a debt snowball, a debt elimination, that route, as far as avoiding bankruptcy through going through that type of thing with a financial coach. When is that the appropriate way to go? And as I thought about this and I've looked back over, all these people that I met with, the bankruptcy cases that I've filed, the number one thing that leads people to bankruptcy is when they find themselves in a crisis situation, financial crisis, where there's something that is happening, whether it be a foreclosure on their home, repossession of their vehicle, debt collection lawsuit, their wages are being garnished. They're going through something that is now not just, collection calls, which particularly with cell phones now are so easy to avoid. Now there's something that's really big that's going to happen. You're going to lose something, whether it's your home or whether it's your car, whether it's your wages, whatever it is. That's what leads people to filing for bankruptcy. And so the number one thing, when I talk about the number one thing that you can do to avoid filing for bankruptcy, I know what all the internet trolls are going to put over there at YouTube. They're going to say, oh, pay your debts. Well, of course, pay your debts. But there are times when that's just simply not possible due to various situations. Sometimes these are self-imposed situations. Other times it's something where it's out of your control and you can't pay your bills. But the number one thing you can do is to be proactive in at least communicating with your creditors, in reaching out to them, and when they call, answer the phone, pick it up, let them know what's going on. And even if you can't pay them, to stay in regular communication with them and let them know what you're doing. Now, my experience over all these years of dealing with all kinds of debt collectors and creditors is that they rarely push things to the very limit, whether it be a lawsuit or wage garnishment, whatever it is, if there's some kind of communication going on. And I even see this with home foreclosure. I mean, obviously you can't live in the home for free. You can't, drive your car around and not make the payment on it. But even in a home foreclosure situation, if you are having regular contact with them, they are willing to at least put you in programs, or at least try to see if there's programs that are available for things like loan modification, short sales, all those different types of things that can help you to avoid an actual foreclosure on your home. Now, so a lot of those programs don't work. I'm painfully aware of that because, I don't know how many clients I have had that have tried to get loan modifications and it just simply doesn't work. Or you submit your paperwork and they lose it 15 times in a row, and then, the house ends up going towards a foreclosure route anyway. Those things are real. They happen all the time. But my experience is that they will try to do something to work with you if you are willing to keep the lines of communication open. And I totally get why people don't want to talk to debt collectors. It's intimidating. They're trying to get something from you that you don't have, so there's this conflict there, and most people just want to avoid it altogether. But again, my experience is if you are communicating with them, and even if you're not able to pay anything, again, you're just saying, Laura, I'm in a situation where I can't, or I'm trying to put together some kind of repayment plan. Can you take a smaller amount? If you're willing to do that, it's rare that I see that they're going to take the more drastic steps of actually trying to seize assets, sue you, and make life super difficult. So that's my number one tip, is to keep communication lines open with your creditors, as well as then you need to back that up with a plan. You need to really take a look at your budget. You need to figure out what it is that you can do to try to avoid further collections and to get these debts paid off and resolved. And that's why I went into the financial coaching in addition to my bankruptcy practice and my consumer protection practice, is because I wanted something else I could offer people other than just saying, well, let's talk to your creditors, but eventually we're going to file bankruptcy anyway. I don't think that's a good solution. What I want to be able to do is help people to put together a plan, and that's what I do as a financial coach, is put together a plan to help you to avoid some of the more drastic steps that are taken by creditors down the road. So, bankruptcy is absolutely necessary at times, and it is a powerful tool when it comes to stopping some of those terrible things I was talking about. If your home's going to be foreclosed on next week, the time is up. You delayed too long, and bankruptcy may be the only way, and likely is the only way, that you're going to be able to get that resolved. And so that's where we can step in. We can file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and help bring you current through that process. Or if your wages are being garnished and you can't afford groceries anymore, or if your vehicle's been repossessed and you're in a situation, or it's going to be repossessed, maybe a Chapter 7 is something we're going to have to do to try to get you out of that situation. But if you can try to avoid allowing the situation or ignoring the situation for so long that it gets into this crisis situation, that's how you're going to be able to avoid bankruptcy. That's how you're going to be able to come out of it better overall, I think, and maybe save the credit somewhat. I always say we got to be careful with too much and focus on credit, because your credits can probably take a beating no matter which route you go here, but you can avoid the whole bankruptcy process and the lasting consequences it has if we're able to avoid some of the the delay that results in the crisis situation. So that's my my take on how you can avoid that altogether, is just by being proactive on this. And this is something easier said than done. I understand that, particularly when things are stressful and you can't pay the bills. But the communication element is key to avoiding those terrible situations that can come when you can't pay your bills. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to learn more about my practice, if you want to learn about the financial coaching, the nice thing about the financial coaching is that I can help people all over the country. It's not a legal practice. It's not law practice. So while I'm limited to Arizona, because that's where my law license is for representing people in bankruptcies or debt collection lawsuits, I can help people all over the country when it comes to actual financial coaching and helping people put together this plan and be more proactive to be able to avoid the bankruptcy. You can learn more about my financial coaching practice at debtfree.coach. That's www.debtfree.coach. You can go there and check out some of the services that we offer. It also has all the information on our courses, online tutorials, forums, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to do it for this episode, and I will catch you next time.